Oh, did you? What is it?
Yeah, I just started it. You were like, "Bomb, pump it up, let's get this."
Are we live? Are we live?
Oh yeah, we're live.
Oh, well, introduce the podcast, friend.
All right.
Well, unless you want
So,
me to.
I mean, it's kind of a collective thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, this is the Where Were We podcast.
Where were we?
Where were we? Actually, trying to introduce the podcast. That's where we were. um, so this is the Where Were We podcast. It's a podcast about literally nothing and everything all at the same damn time.
Absolutely.
It is hosted by me, Mocha, and
The illustrious Seaside.
you can't just fucking one up me like that, man.
Bro, I'm illustrious.
Illustrious.
I'm illustrious.
Illustrious.
Check my resume. It says
Check my
illustrious. First
resume.
thing,
It's on my resume. It's my first bullet point.
illustrious.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's fucking good. I needed to I need to recoup my thoughts here because I'll let the viewers know.
Yeah, this is some
This is some
episode one
bullshit.
insider knowledge.
This is episode 1 insider knowledge, which is people suck,
People do suck.
and more importantly, Mocha sucks.
Well, Mocha isn't illustrious. I'll tell you that
I am
much. But
not
he's a good guy.
illustrious.
He's a good guy. He's not illustrious, but he is a
So-
good guy.
This is Where Were We? Take 3.
Take 3.
And the reason it's take 3 is because I fucked up takes 1 and 2. And not like in the sense where it's like, oh, we started it and I was like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with my voice. No. No, the first one I recorded entirely without getting his microphone at all.
It
So I
happens.
didn't pick up any
you know.
sound.
Strike 1.
So there's strike 1. It was just me talking to myself, laughing to myself, and he's just sitting over there the whole time like,
And he can hear me. It's just that my voice
I
didn't
could hear
record.
him, but nobody else could. And I go to rewatch the video and I'm like, oh no, how do I break this to him? So I tell you, and then we like putzed around on this for like 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And then we finally get to record literally like a couple hours ago.
Yep, a couple hours ago.
And,
Started around 9
I'm like-
o'clock.
I'm like, oh man, everything's fine. This time I got it. Your voice is gonna pick up whatever. And when we streamed it on Twitch, I forgot to do the auto video creation, so it never recorded a video. So it was like anybody who didn't watch it live, which nobody fucking knows about us yet because this is episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody saw it and nobody was gonna see it. So we're re-recording. It's currently
Re-record.
1 o'clock in the morning.
It is, in fact, 1 o'clock in the morning, East Pacific. Eastern time.
East Pacific time. East
East Pacific
Pacific time.
That's how you know it's 1 in the morning.
That's how you know
Seaside
it's 1
is
in the morning.
sleeping deliriously.
So without further ado, I mean, this is literally, everybody talks about doing podcasts like these. But, I mean, let's be real. Not every podcast like this has one thing that we have. Okay?
What do we have?
Well, we'll get there. The first thing, right, is it's a podcast about nothing, which is like the Seinfeld of podcast. The best show ever, some would argue.
I'm gonna disagree,
Some would argue.
but I get where I'm following.
Okay, how about this? The best sitcom, one of the best sitcoms ever.
One of the best sitcoms ever.
That's fair. That's at least
That
fair.
is fair. That's more than fair.
Okay, so one of the best sitcoms ever has the greatest premise probably ever. I would say that's fair.
Yes.
Because it's like snippets of life. It's just slices
It's a
of
slice of life.
Slice of life. And sometimes life hits you, and that's how the cookie crumbles, and we fucking experience life a lot.
Oh yeah, life hit us like a ton of bricks.
But the one thing that the other podcasts that try to do this don't have, that we have, is us.
That's true.
We're a lot more entertaining than any other people I've ever met.
I'm a pretty entertaining guy.
I like to consider myself entertaining.
Here we are.
And here we are. So fuck every other podcast. We're the greatest. Yeah. So I genuinely wanted to just jump right into it. I mean, I know that we're streaming on Twitch, right? And Twitch is gaming platform. Okay. So, naturally, we'll probably talk a little bit of games, but we'll probably go off on tangents all the time.
Absolutely.
Like today, the main topic isn't games, right? The main topic is people fucking suck.
People do suck.
People suck.
People suck, fam.
And I want to get your take.
Okay.
So, you probably know a lot of really awful people, right?
I can say that.
Yeah, I do too. I think everybody could say that, right?
Absolutely.
If you had to pick one person
Mm-hmm.
and like one action that they do that is genuinely like over the top awful.
Okay.
You don't have to name the I don't want to drop names. I don't want to, destroy anybody else's reputation or anything. But like, what's that one thing that they do that you're like, you're just the fucking worst human ever?
Well, generally, people who suck, I try to avoid them so I don't have to deal with them, so that it's not something that reoccurs. But one person that quickly came to mind. I'm actually a law school student. One of my professors is a big dick, and he's also the dean of students. So
wait, you can't just put your dean on blast.
Oh, he sucks. He's the worst.
But what if he watches this? You're gonna fail.
I'm not gonna fail. I don't have class. Well, I guess I do have class with him now, but I'm graduating in May. I'm not worried
just
about
say,
it.
But the dean of my college, Jimmy Dean, fucking sucks.
I guarantee that if he watches this, he knows he's a dick.
He knows.
So, and here's why. I'll give a brief synopsis why. So in law school, it's very much the Socratic method. So that means that you don't really raise your hand when your teacher asks you a question. The teacher just calls on you. Like you'll just be sitting in class, like it's like Russian roulette. It's like, ooh, everyone's looking around like, who's the teacher gonna call on? Because if your teacher calls on you and you don't know the answer, guess what? You're gonna get made fun of by the teacher in front of the class, and everyone will look at you like, oh, that person's an idiot.
He's a dumbass.
Oh, that person's an idiot. But so it adds an element of like, it adds an element of suspense. It adds an element of like fear. So, So it's especially difficult when the professor asks unintelligible questions that don't entirely make sense, questions that wouldn't make sense like sentence structure wise to anyone.
Oh, okay.
So he calls on individuals, one time me in particular, and I ask him, what does he mean by the question? And then he laughs, and then he does this thing where he belittles you for not understanding him. It's like, buddy, like, I speak English, you speak English pretty well. I assume to become the dean of students at an ABA accredited law school.
Yeah, there you go.
How about you ask me a good question?
In the King's speak,
in the King's English,
if you will.
So that's not even the worst of it. There's this gentleman in our class. He's a little bit on the bigger end. The professor is giving hypotheticals. That's a lot of what you do in law school is you do hypotheticals, and then you try to apply the law to that hypothetical.
Okay.
One of the hypotheticals the professor gives is about a businessman who's entering into partnerships making cookies, and he uses one student as one of the partners, and that student, the bigger gentleman, he tells the professor. Well, the professor tells him, well, being in a partnership with you would probably be a bad idea because you look like you can't ever say no to a cookie. You might eat all the profit. And this happens in front of the entire class. The entire class goes silent, and you can hear the
Oh,
pin drops falling in the classroom.
sheesh.
The next day, we have the class. The professor comes in because I guess someone, rightfully so, goes to him and tells him, "Hey, you were really out of line for that." And he goes, "I guess some of you guys took my joke offensively. Well, I'm sorry you were offended." Like, what kind of apology is
That's
that?
it? Hmm.
And
Hmm.
mind you, I studied my butt off for this class. It's this class called Business Organization. So it's all about business. There's lots of law. There's lots of law from Pennsylvania, lots of law from the United States, lots of law from Delaware because a lot of corporations are based out of Delaware, and the laws there are a lot more favorable. So you got to learn all this law and all these hypotheticals and do all these problems. The day before the exam, he tells us, "Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. There's a 60% multiple choice portion of the exam. And also, you have to cite the exact statutes, which means you have to memorize all of these hundreds of statute numbers and statute names." And he says, "Yeah, that's it. I get a C plus on the exam." Mind
That's
you,
it.
I got a C plus on the exam after studying for weeks preparing. And then he tells us this. I didn't have any time to study all
He
that.
just says
I
that's
get a
it.
C plus on the exam, my lowest grade in law school. Mind you, I have I'm a top 10 student at the
Oh
law school,
man,
and I got a C plus.
that's that's kind of hilarious.
Oh man, let me tell you about my anger. I walked out of the exam also. Even with that, I walked out of the exam thinking I got an A. I got my grades back, and I almost did a backflip. I don't know if you guys can see me, but I am 5'9", 200 plus pounds, and I almost did a backflip at how angry I was.
Okay, okay, so you
There was a great amount of fury, and I've done my best to avoid this man's class, but this class I'm taking currently, I could not avoid.
all right, so you just told a really great story about grades and about school, about stuff like that, right? I got one for you, okay?
Let's hear it.
So I'm in my my freshman year, right?
Freshman year of college.
Freshman year of college.
Okay.
Okay.
Young
First semester.
young Mocha.
Young Mocha. First semester, bud. Um I look at all my classes and I go, I could probably do the same thing I did in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go, all right, I'm not buying any books. No books. Who
Oh
cares?
boy.
No books. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No books. And I go, I have class, uh, like 3 days a week for like these couple of classes. I have class for like 2 days a week these classes, and I was like, so for naturally for the ones that I have 3 days a week, my thought process was, I'll go 2 days out of the three, and I'll just
Okay.
skip one day of classes,
Yeah.
right? And then on the 2 days that I had the other classes, I was like, I'll just go to one of those and I'll be
Okay.
fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I skip one class of each of my classes every week. That was the plan.
Sounds like the Seaside Special.
That was the plan.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
The reality,
Oh boy.
the reality was, um, I went to one class a week. just one.
Disaster waiting to
and
happen.
and it was like my 8 a.m. Monday morning to check off the box that it was like I went to class for the week. so
Oh boy.
so I do this, right, and I get a text one day from a classmate in my business calculus class, okay,
Yuck.
and he says, "Hey man, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, never better. What's up?" He goes, "You realize we had an exam today, right?"
Ooh.
And I was like, "We did?" And
Oh boy.
he goes, I mean, you might want to go ask the professor if you can like read, like if you can take that. So I go to the professor, and the professor says, "Are you even enrolled in my class?"
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Okay, well, big F there, right?" So
Rip.
I get a 1.0 my first semester, a
Big
1.0.
yikes.
Get put
Yeah.
on academic probation, but I got a girlfriend who is currently my wife, so I think I
And
won
that is
in
the
the
true
long
love
run.
story.
Um, there's a lot of memes that you could put to that, but regardless, um, my
Hey, and you
second,
graduated.
I did graduate. My
You did.
second year, I retook that business calc class because I had
Mm-hmm.
to, right? And I take it, and here's where I'm getting to the grades portion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I retake it, and I get this professor who is a dickhead, and I don't mean a dickhead like he's a mean professor. He was just like overly sarcastic and did not give a shit.
Oh, sounds
Okay,
like my dean.
yeah, kind of, right?
Oh, he was very sarcastic.
This is what made me think of this, right? So I was like, okay, I'm a new student. Like my second semester freshman year, I get like a 3.0, so I'm like good. I'm back on good standing, all this stuff. My second year, my sophomore year, I'm like, okay, I really gotta like step it up. I'm like, on the edge of getting kicked out, like at any point, right? So I need to
Mm.
just like get good grades. So
Oh,
I'm going to
absolutely.
every single class. I still wasn't really buying books that much unless I knew that homework was like in the books or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I show up to my first math exam for Dr. Dickhead, okay? And I take this exam. I was like feeling really awful about it. I was like, there is no way I passed this, right?
Okay.
We go in the next class period, which was like the following week after the exam, and he writes up on the board the lowest score, which was a 0.
Mm-hmm.
The highest score, he put a question mark.
Oh boy.
Okay, and he put a bell curve. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is business calc, so these guys are all about the fucking curve and all that shit, right?
Yeah, everything law in law school is on a curve too.
Everything's all about that curve. He goes, "I'm not going to tell you guys the highest score yet. I'm going to pass out the exams and then we'll talk about it." So he passes out all the exams and I get mine first, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at it and I got a 76.
Okay.
And I was like, shit, I got a C. I thought like I studied pretty well, whatever. I'm like, shit, I got a C. And then like he starts giving it the test to other people, and they look at mine and they go, "Man, fuck you."
Oh boy.
I'm like, what did I do? And they're like, you got a 76? I got a 22, or I got
Oh
like a
boy.
24. And I'm like, sucks to be you. This is my second time in this class, so I didn't feel bad for anybody, right? I'm like, this is fine. I deserve this. I should have gotten this before, right?
Yeah.
He writes up on the board, 76 was the highest score.
Clutch. Clutched
I
it.
got the highest score.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so he looks at everybody else and he goes, now, this gentleman right here set the curve.
Oh, that is a recipe for disaster.
And he set it pretty fucking low.
Oh my god.
Well, he didn't say fucking, but he said this gentleman right here, he set the curve and he set it really low. And he goes, so for those of you who are wondering about what you can get on, like, as your final grade, he goes, anybody who got higher than a 22% can still get a 90% in this class.
Mm.
And I
Poor
look
black.
over, and the person next to me's got a 20. And they go, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
Yikes.
Like, what was that professor thinking?
He was trying to get you killed.
Dr. Dickhead, man. He's just like,
Dr.
this
Dickhead.
boy right here sets the curve. And he goes, you can thank him for your 20% not being good enough.
Dr.
Oh,
Dickhead.
man, Dr. Dickhead. All right, well, we digress. Where were we?
Exactly. Purple brown.
Uh, I think that the greatest part is about Dr. Dickhead is he was literally like that the entire semester. He was just like full stop. He called people out who didn't go to class much. He was like, you guys are the problem. It's not a problem with the class. It's not a problem with the system. It's not a problem with the way I grade. You not coming to class is the problem. He was that kind of guy. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dr. Dickhead right there, man. I gotta say, like we were talking about earlier, this is on Twitch, this gaming platform. So I think it's only fair that we jump into a little bit of gaming topics. I am a streamer. I stream Dota 2, which is a MOBA. I stream Artifact, which is a digital card game. You're a console gamer.
I'm a recent convert.
Yeah, I mean you used to fucking play PC games, and now you're a console gamer.
I definitely converted after I realized that the experience I really wanted was a story. I love to be told a story. Said it before, I say it once again. A good story. I'm like pretty much the way I think about games. Like I'm paying to play a movie. You know what I mean?
Paying to play a movie. Yeah. See. Fuck that.
I
just want to beat people. I want to win games, and I want to look you in the face and pop off the chair and be like, fuck you. I beat you. You suck. I'm better than you right now.
See, I don't know. That's just not, the competitive element is fun. That's fun to me in some instances, but really I just want to relax when I play games. I don't want to stress about my teammates being awful because they're always awful and they don't speak English and it's hard to communicate.
But
I just
the
want to
best
play
part
my
about
games.
having awful teammates is flaming them.
Yeah, and then you got to
just
play the
flame
game
your
for another
teammates.
45 minutes with the same teammates you flamed, reported, and muted.
Yeah, but you flame them consecutively for 45 minutes and you feel better about yourself as a person.
It is painful. It is painful. You flame your teammate in the first 20 minutes and then have to play another 40 with them.
So for those of you that don't know, Artifact is a card game based off of Dota 2. Dota 2 is a MOBA, which means you play on a team of 5 people against another team of 5 people. You're trying to take buildings, okay? There's like 100+ heroes. They all have different abilities. You're trying to take towers. That's the objective, right?
And there's always a different permutation of heroes and
Yes.
teams and team compositions, abilities, items. There's all these things that you have to take into consideration per your situation, per your hero, per your role.
Yes, exactly. It's
You
a
dump
very
hundreds of
complex game.
hours into it. There's
It's-
not really a story mode. It's a competitive game. It's a
It
game
is.
where you have to rely on your teammates. It's a game where you have to rely on your own skill. It's a game where communication is very important.
Yes. It's also in the similar vein as League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm, Smite, Those are all different MOBAs. Um,
Dota 2
and
is just the best one,
Dota
in
2
my
is
opinion.
art like I can't even say arguably. It's just hands down the best one. Um, it's actually the first one. Dota, the original Dota was the first MOBA.
Okay.
Um,
Made
though,
from World of Warcraft, right?
well, Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3.
So Warcraft 3 had um, the original Dota, which was like a map, a mod of like a StarCraft map.
Mm.
And then it eventually evolved. Different developers took it over the time, and eventually it spawned off Heroes of Newerth and League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Those were like the two main games that were like, we want to be a standalone uh, Dota lookalike,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And then when the Reforged Warcraft 3 expansion came out, they went and did Warcraft or Dota All Stars, which was like the most popular um, version. That kind of became Dota 1 as people know it. And then Valve kind of contacted IceFrog, who was the lead developer on Dota All Stars, and were like, hey, do you want to reimagine this game to whatever you want it to be? Um,
Steam.
yeah, and all that stuff. And then IceFrog was like, sure, I'm going to make the best MOBA of all time. And that's what happened. Yeah, full
All hail
stop.
Ice Frog.
Yeah. So, anyway, Artifact is a card game based off that. And so what we're referencing right now is when you get into a game of Dota 2 and you're on a team of four, like you and four random people, trying to communicate with four random people who all think that they're the best one on the team, who all think that they're the best one on certain roles, who all think that they're the able to tell you what you're doing right or wrong, it gets pretty challenging, right?
It's more than challenging. It gets mind-blowingly irritating.
It is irritating. The best part of Artifact is it removes 8 of those fucking 10 people. It's
That's
just
true.
me versus somebody else doing most of the, I would say, the strategic components of a Dota game in card form. Um, but there's only me to blame. I can't be like, who put my Crystal Maiden in the fucking third lane and let her feed? Like, who fucking did that? No, that's me. I put the CM there and the CM fucking fed. That was my fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is a
indeed.
nice, fun meme though when you're streaming Artifact, being like, who decided it was a good idea for my Ursa to be in the mid lane? Who, who did
Who
that?
Ursa mids?
Who put Ursa mid? And then Ursa gets a kill, and you're like, ah, man, I knew it was the best idea to put Ursa mid.
New meta.
New meta. um. So anyway, yes, I think that is the like funniest part about trying to stream Artifact is just being like flaming yourself,
Yeah.
basically. Like you take that same heat that you would have given in a game of Dota and you just put it on yourself in a game of Artifact.
Yeah.
All these dumbass motherfucking Crystal Maidens feeding in the right lane. Who does this shit? Who put that hero there? Who spawned
So
my creeps here? Hey, hey, hey.
that's I mean I could see the fun in that. To me, I like to really invest into the characters I play. So the two games I recently played, God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2,
Okay.
and um, fully investing in your relationship as the God of War, Kratos, and his son Atreus. By the end of that story, I'm almost in tears. I'm almost in tears. By the end of Red Dead Redemption 2 and into the epilogue, without saying any spoilers, oh man, If I didn't, I my eyes were watering. See, that's the type of thing because I feel like when you play those games, everyone's character, you play them, but you play them in your story, but it's like your story because it's
Okay,
you
I
play the
get you.
game the way you want to play it. You make decisions based on your own way you want to play the game, your moral compass, um, and it affects gameplay.
That's very true.
You grow to love these characters. It's like any TV show. It's like an ongoing TV show that you can turn on and off, and you can make some decisions to it. You know what I mean?
I can understand that. I mean, I do like the open world type games,
Mm-hmm.
like the Grand Theft Autos, the
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But a a real big classic, in my opinion, that originally got me into gaming, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, is the whole Legend of Zelda franchise.
Yeah, Legend of Zelda is
That, like, every single game in that whole series is like, hot damn, it's just perfection.
it's
Like,
clean.
from the environment that is actually around you, like the world that they build in Hyrule, to the music, to the actual gameplay, to the characters, uh, the lore. I mean, have you like watched or read any of the things about the Zelda lore?
I've fallen off the like I said, I'm recently back on the video game train.
Gotcha.
So and I don't have a Nintendo system, even though I'd love to have a Switch. My brother has one, but he won't let me borrow.
You, I, I swear, like, go on YouTube, just look up the Zelda timeline
Mm-hmm.
and like the complete timeline. They have like hour long like videos on it. I watched like 4 hour long videos on the Zelda timeline and like all the canon and everything. It's one of those uh, multi timeline stories
Mm-hmm.
where one event kind of shoots off three other timelines. There's like a whole bunch of things.
Oh,
Um,
you know what that sounds? That sounds like I just started playing Kingdom Hearts, and I never played it. It's not to interrupt you.
oh, you're
I've
fine.
never played any of the Kingdom Hearts games, but I watched the video and I still had no idea what the devil that story is about.
I mean, it's tough sometimes.
It's a maze, and I'm sure that's I'm not the only one who feels that way. But it's a throwback game. It kind of does remind me of Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, no, I mean those types of games are definitely just up there.
Nostalgic
Yeah.
and
Like for me, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask are
hmm
like arguably two of the better Zelda games ever.
hmm
And like for me, I played those for hours and hours and hours and replayed through them constantly. Like just growing up, like that was fun for me, right?
absolutely, yeah.
But like the whole concept of Twitch and the whole concept of like getting on and watching a stream wasn't really new to me. I mean, I I have three brothers, right? So for
hmm
me, like watching other people play video games was just as much fun as me playing them myself. I
Absolutely, yeah.
mean, we only had two controllers sometimes. It was like only two of you could play, and the other two had to just sit there and kind of wait your turn, whatever. So I mean, from my perspective, like that was a pretty easy transition into Twitch and different things like that. One game that I could watch for literal hours. It does not matter how long. Shadow of Colossus.
Yeah, Shadow of Colossus.
That game is very underrated.
Yeah, it got remastered for or remade for the PS4. That's one of the games on my list that I'm gonna play.
It's one of those
It's
games
very
that
beautiful.
people do not think of right away when they're like, "Oh, what are some of like the all-time great games?" And I don't know why. I mean, that game had a lot of really amazing features. Uh,
A lot. It's really, yeah, really good.
the world that it built, the graphics within it, um, the the character development was probably meh. Uh, and I think maybe that's where it gets a little bit of flack.
Mm-hmm.
But like, all in all, I mean the whole concept, just defeating these massive, massive monsters and creatures,
Mm-hmm.
it gave me that like, it almost gave me like a very grown up Legend of Zelda feel.
Yeah,
Whereas
I could
like,
see that.
I mean, it's a similar concept. Like you're just fighting these creatures and monsters, which is what a lot of games are
Mm-hmm.
at their cores. Um, but it was they had them built kind of in the similar Zelda vein, where it was like puzzles to win.
Yeah,
You know, you couldn't just uh, kill a
forced
monster
your way
by
through.
sword fighting it. You had to like jump on its back and run around a platform and then stab it in a specific spot
Mm-hmm.
3 times, fall off, get back up there and do it again. It was like, oh man, that's crazy. Um, oh man, okay, so we have a question.
Oh,
Okay,
do
we
we?
we have a question from the audience. All right.
Let's hear it.
So it says, if you were in the opposite gender for 1 year, what would be the first thing you'd do?
The first thing I did. Hmm. Well,
I'm the opposite gender for 1 year.
for a year.
The first thing I do is buy new clothes because all I got is male clothes, right?
Yeah. I mean, do people still know it's me?
I guess, I mean, for argument's sake, yes, people still know it's you.
Uh, well, I'd probably be a hermit because I'd probably be depressed, honestly.
Why would you be depressed?
I'd be depressed because I like myself. You know,
Oh,
I
you
like who
like
I am.
yourself.
I like who I am. But if people didn't know it was me, I'd be a fake hoe.
What?
I would definitely be a pretend thought. I'd be a pretend thought and finesse
I I was not
everyone out
ready
of
for
their
that
money.
answer.
I'd be a pretend thought and finesse everyone out of their money.
What's the
And
first thing you would do? The first thing you would do is just be a hoe?
yes, I mean,
God, you're
you know,
rough.
there's
Seaside,
there's
you
some
are
money to
rough,
be
man.
made there.
I
There's some
said
money.
go shopping. I had a wholesome answer. I mean, I need new clothes. Look, I mean, you see any woman
Well, I
walking
guess
around wearing
before,
a Kunkka shirt, you're probably like, I don't know about them.
or you think, oh, she's into gaming.
I mean, sure, but like,
I guess. Before your thought, you got to get the clothes.
yeah. I mean, what would you would wear that?
I guess
Trying to
not.
be a hoe wearing that?
You got a
Look at
point.
you.
You got a point.
Oh, which brings me to my next thing, right?
What?
SpongeBob memes.
SpongeBob is the meme that never stops.
You want to know why that came to my mind?
Why?
So I know that we've been wanting to talk about SpongeBob probably forever,
Hmm.
right? Uh, SpongeBob to me is the ultimate meme. And not
It
only
is.
is SpongeBob the ultimate meme, but I think I reference SpongeBob at least once a day, every day.
I mean, it's the show that I haven't watched in years, and I can still laugh at till today.
So the reason why I thought of this was because we were talking about this question being the opposite gender, and I just said, "Look at you. Would you really wear that and be a hoe?" Right? But
Yeah.
but then what I was really thinking is in the number one hat, the
Oh yeah.
Smitty Werber Jagerman Jensen.
Yeah.
He was number one.
He was
So
number
Mr.
one.
Krabs is trying to get the hat back, and he says, "You look like a girl." And SpongeBob goes, "Am I a pretty girl?" And he goes, "You're beautiful."
What a classic show.
What a
So many.
classic! What a classic!
But yeah, we're talking about lore and backstory and canon. You're going to go see Captain Marvel,
I am going to see Captain Marvel tomorrow, or I guess
and
that's later on today. I
yeah,
can't even say
Captain
tomorrow.
Marvel later
Jeez.
on today. How do you feel about how do you feel about the Avengers movie? Did you see the trailer?
The Endgame trailer.
Yes.
I've seen them all. Yeah.
The one that just came out recently.
I mean,
Yeah. How do you think they beat Thanos?
so if we're going based off of the comic lore,
Mm-hmm.
I I think that they're going to. They can't just have the storyline where Captain Marvel wins by.
I can't. I can't. I will not be happy with that.
I mean,
And quite frankly, you haven't seen the movie. I did not like it, but we can discuss that after you've seen it.
you didn't like Captain Marvel.
I did not like it,
I
and I wanted to like it.
I've heard a couple things, but we can definitely talk about it on the next episode when I've
Absolutely.
seen it, and we'll have to put a little spoilers in there.
Absolutely.
Uh, so I gotta just I keep looking over at this because I realized that we got this question right,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep looking over and laughing because the question came from somebody who also just followed us. So thanks for the follow.
All right. Thanks
We
for the
really
follow.
appreciate it. But
Let's give him a shout out. What's the name?
the name is Master69 Lucifer.
Huh. Perfect.
Perfect.
Well, first follower.
First follower. So thanks, Devil
Thanks, Master
69er.
Yeah.
You're the best or the worst, whatever one you wanna.
Thanks,
you wanna...
amigo.
Thanks, Master. We appreciate it. I think that's hilarious. I haven't stopped laughing at the name, honestly. Ever since I looked over at it, I was like, I mean, I guess I gotta read this, right? It's the only question we've ever got. I mean, it's the first episode. Might as well
Episode 1.
get the questions in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how do you feel about that? So I know that we're streaming on Twitch and whatnot.
Mhm.
Are you like down with taking questions from people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can make this interactive. I'd love to I'd love to get the feelings of the people, feed off the people.
Sure. I mean, it feels fine.
Yeah, every once in a while. We don't have to do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one was pretty funny
Mm-hmm.
because the name first off, but second, it's actually a pretty good question. I mean, because the thing that got me was you said the first thing you would do if you were a woman is be a hoe,
Yeah, absolutely.
but he said for like 1 year.
That's exactly.
So like, you're gonna develop a reputation, right?
Yeah, but then I go back to being a guy after the year.
But then you go back to being a guy after a year. And
I
then you
just
got to
like
get
be a
on
hoe.
new clothes again.
I just keep the same clothes I had.
I really need. I'm super invested in this wardrobe concept because I know the first thing I would do if I was a woman: sundresses. Easy.
Sundresses, just bare-legged.
You know how cozy those things look?
Oh, they look pretty cozy.
I almost said are, but then I was like,
Hey, man.
wait.
Whatever you're into.
No, sundresses always like never cease to amaze me. I'm always like,
I'm amazed by sundresses, but not for the coziness.
oh well. I mean, fine, whatever. Ho ho ho.
Oh,
Ho ho
oh,
ho.
haha.
Ho 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 ha ha. Have you ever heard of the YouTuber Dom Mazzetti?
Name sounds familiar.
He's like the like gym bro dude.
Okay.
Like it's always like Dom Mazzetti versus whatever topic, and then he rants about it for a while.
Okay.
Well, he was talking about sundresses one time, and he goes, "It's like frosted nipples in a sundress on the first day of spring, beaver season." Who fucking like who thinks of that? That was brilliant content, if you ask me.
Classic.
Classic stuff. So where were we?
Exactly.
Sorry,
Yeah.
where were we? Um, I I think I'm gonna diverge back to SpongeBob, right? Because
Okay.
we really love SpongeBob. Like you said, I haven't watched an episode of SpongeBob in years, but I know every damn word to
Yeah.
almost every single episode.
I don't even know if they're making new episodes anymore, but
It
more
doesn't
power to it.
matter. It
More power
doesn't
to the
matter.
younger generation who are watching it.
So like one of my favorite things that ever happened in SpongeBob was, and I use this all the time, like whenever my wife does something that I'm like, oh, you, like you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? I give her that type of face, right? And the reason why I love that quote so much is because, like, what follows that? He's like, oh, you should slow down in there, Squidward, when he's locked in the vault eating the Krabby Patties. And he's like, why? What's going to happen? And will I blow up? And he's like, it'll go right to your thighs. And then
And
you'll blow
then
up.
classic stuff.
Oh, man. Oh, man. That's too good. That's too good. That show is too good. And not only is
Absolutely.
that show too good, but I feel like that show, like we said, it's the ultimate meme.
It's the meme that keeps on giving.
And there are so many memes that come from that show that are
And
just like perfect.
quality memes.
What's your
Quality
favorite
joking.
SpongeBob meme?
Mm, it's probably the Mr. Krabs word the like
The
he's
like,
looking around
just looking around.
because I felt that feeling many a time.
I I I gotta say I like the um oh man, there's so many good ones. I like the ones usually involving Patrick. Patrick, your genius is showing. Where?
That one's good.
That stuff can keep me entertained for hours. And I think that's the problem with me.
Mm-hmm.
Is like not a lot entertains me for hours.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that do are genuinely dumb.
I find that like a lot of things are competing for my attention, especially since I
Ooh,
started getting back into gaming. So
okay.
I'm into gaming. There's a million TV shows that I'm not caught up on. I work out. I still gotta study and go to class and go to work. So there's all these things, and there's just not enough hours in a day. Ideally, I could skip sleep and just be awake.
I
I
mean,
do
I
enjoy
wish I
sleep,
was
but
skipping sleep right now, but I mean, I get you. I mean, there really isn't. It's
yeah,
it feels crappy when you wake up and you're like, man, I've been asleep for the last 7 hours or 6 hours, whatever. I could have been
absolutely.
doing all these other
XYZ.
things.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something, but it's even more severe with you. I have a girlfriend I have to entertain and love and hang out with, which I enjoy. But there's all these other things I have to
There's
do
all
too.
these other things. I have a wife and 2 children.
Yeah, so I'm sure that your time is the most valuable.
I mean, you would think that, and yet I just throw it away apparently. I
we all need
Well,
time.
when I say I throw it away, I mean like sometimes I think genuinely going to work is a waste of time.
Hmm.
I think I have a thought that a lot of people have, but it's one of those thoughts that you don't like saying out loud because you're like, well, I need my job or whatever.
Hmm.
But I have like the quitting fantasy always,
Mm.
like replaying in my head. Just like
Hmm.
what if I walked into my boss's office right now and went, "Fuck you, I'm out of here."
That's the
Right?
dream.
That's
Yeah.
the dream, right? But like, I don't think I would do it that way. I think I would do it very different.
Explain.
Let's. How do I put this? I like my boss.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good friend of mine, and I
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of my coworkers. It's most of the other people that I have a problem with.
Okay.
So I would kind of rather go play pranks on all the people who I don't like
Mm-hmm.
and be like it doesn't matter because I'm just out of here after this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I work in systems. So
Mm-hmm.
like I could if I wanted to, I could program the systems so that anytime certain individuals open them up, they could instead of working, they could give some really mean error messages.
Oh no.
And I have people specifically who don't like to read error messages, but if I forced them to read an error message by putting an error message up that you couldn't close out of
Mm-hmm.
without opening more error messages, that might be pretty fun.
That might be pretty fun.
It might be pretty fun. And then I could just like wipe some of the data out of the system and then be like, eh,
Yeah, it happens.
why not, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I would do it a more cruel way than just being like, fuck you, I'm out of here.
Okay,
It'd be
cool. Yeah.
like, fuck you, clean up this mess.
Mm-hmm. That's that's the fantasy. It's like what a lot of people have played on that fantasy. Like I know I know you were a wrestling fan at some point, and
Yes,
I'm still a
yes.
big wrestling fan. Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was his whole character. He gets to throw a beat on his boss, beat him up, and go home, and then have a job the next day.
Fuck fear, drink beer, man.
Exactly.
That's that's the shirt.
Yeah, Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your, you know what? There it is.
Give him that stunner.
Give him the stunner, drink some beer, pour some on him, and go home."
There's the one right where uh I forget the woman, the WWE diva who he was in the ring with, who
Hmm.
didn't like beer.
I think that may have been Stacy Keebler, who was married to George Clooney later.
Yeah, and she was like, I don't like beer, I don't like beer, and he was like, what? And then he just gives her the stunner.
Hey, man. I
In
mean,
what other universe, other than WWE, is domestic violence just okay like that?
it is a strange universe where rules go out. It's its own universe. There was once a storyline involving Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, where Eddie Guerrero said that Rey Mysterio's real life son was his son, and that he slept with Rey Mysterio's wife, and that the only way that Rey Mysterio could prove that his son was his own son was if he beat him in a wrestling match.
There was,
It's
I
like
mean,
custody of the child. Beat me in this match.
beat me, beat me for it. So, speaking of wrestling, I do want to touch on this before we round out the show, right?
Okay.
Um, I followed wrestling a lot more when the storylines were less PG
Mm-hmm.
and more. Let's put it this way: my original AOL email was Thugonomics24K.
Oh, the doctorate in thugonomics.
I I used to love John Cena when he was like the rapper. I'm gonna fight you with my brass knuckle chains and
Mm-hmm.
all this shit, right? But back in those times, there was some dark content.
Oh,
that
let me tell you,
WWE
there
put
was
out.
some very dark content.
And I vaguely remember watching a Royal Rumble over at your apartment
Hmm.
from around that time that I was into it when I don't think most of you were. And so some of those storylines were shocking to some
Oh
of our
yeah.
friends.
Yes.
Like Eugene.
Oh my goodness, Eugene.
Eugene's character was genuinely.
Oh, to the listeners, sorry. Wrestling is it's a scripted program.
It is a
Uh,
scripted program, yes. Sorry, we should
Spoilers.
definitely preface this.
Um, but treat it like any other TV show. Like you don't say, "Oh, The Walking Dead's not real," so you know what I mean. It's just
Exactly.
it's a
It's
TV show.
entertainment.
Now, as you were saying.
So, Eugene was supposed to be a special needs wrestler
Mm-hmm.
who idolized a lot of the wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he, the way he talked, the way he walked, the way he did everything was less PC
Oh yeah.
than you would like it to be.
Oh yes. And if you think that's bad, I have another story, another storyline.
Well, the other one that comes to my mind first, other than
Mhm.
Eugene, was there was at one point Brock Lesnar beat the crap out of a guy with one leg.
Oh, that very much did happen.
And not only did he beat the crap out of the guy with one leg, but he took that guy with the one leg and slammed his one leg into metal poles,
Yep.
beat it with chairs,
Yep.
flipped that man around,
It was the Wild West back then.
and kept saying, "Are you done yet?"
They could get away with anything.
I mean, they really could.
Now,
And I just don't get it. I don't get
yeah,
how that was allowed. That was that was like 10 years ago.
yeah, the rules were just different. They could just do whatever they
They could
wanted,
do
and they
anything.
just got all the ratings, and no one said anything. I mean, now they're PG, and now they're making more money than they ever did, even though the ratings are way down because they have so many sponsors. The TV deals are ridiculous. Vince McMahon just signed a TV deal for SmackDown. I think it's about $1 billion for I think undisclosed amount of years. They made an undisclosed amount of money, a ridiculous amount of money from doing. It's a 10-year deal with Saudi Arabia to do shows in Saudi Arabia.
Jeez, Zooks.
Yeah.
That's pretty. I mean, that's good for them, right?
Hmm.
But like, geez, Zooks, that is crazy.
Yeah. There's one story that I think that was highly offensive at the time and probably still is now. So there's an Italian gentleman who some Italians have a little bit of darker skin. So his character was to play a Muslim individual, and his character was he was a villain, and the reason why he was a villain was he said that the U.S. was racist. He said that the U.S. was prejudiced against Muslim individuals, even though he wasn't he in real life he was Italian, but he played a Muslim on this TV show. Well, 1 week after 9/11 occurred, he went to the ring with a gang of men all draped in like ski mask, beat up the Undertaker, and essentially it was what's the word? It was insinuated that this was some type of terrorist gang. And this was 1 week after 9/11. Needless to say that not that it was his fault, he was just doing what he was told. That character was never seen on TV again after that due
Yeah,
to the outrage.
they're edgy.
Yeah, it was very, very
They
edgy,
are.
very
That
risky.
was a very edgy program back in the day.
Absolutely.
Um, and I think I know what changed WWE. You cannot have that kind of content and your lead superstar is on the cover of a Fruity Pebbles box.
Absolutely. It's the sponsors.
It's the sponsors.
It's the sponsors.
All right. Well, we're at 1 hour. So I'm going to explain this segment just for the first time because this is episode 1. So people who, are going to watch or listen later on and follow us along this podcast journey will understand what we do when we wrap up the show. I'm going to give Seaside 2 options. He's going to give me 2 options. We just pick one with as minimal explanation behind it as possible. For instance, I would say to Seaside, toaster strudel or Pop-Tarts.
And I'd say Pop-Tarts.
He says Pop-Tarts, and I can't dispute it. I can't do anything about it. We're just straight up, you gotta give it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I gotta think of something. So, if you have something, go for it.
Sure. Scorpion or Sub-Zero?
Scorpion.
Scorpion, too.
Right?
Yeah.
Sundresses or maxi dresses? But for you to wear when you change genders for a year.
Probably the sundress.
Okay.
There.